And so civil service, you got to have a world civil service of competent people, right, who are known to be good at what they do, and they've got the proper degrees and so on. You've got to have a world boundaries and elections administration, right? And that is, I think there's a key passage in that on page 50, 8.3.1.5, which is at the bottom of the last paragraph on page 50. And that is before each world parliamentary election to prepare voters' information booklets, which will summarize major current public issues and shall list each candidate for elective office together with standard information about each candidate and give space for each candidate to state his or her views on the defined major issues. Right? They're taking elections out of the marketplace like they are in the United States, right? Multinational corporations or rich people will not be able to fund, this person running for, a Republican position or whatever, some nutcase, they're taking, this is the opposite of Citizens United, right? Everybody will have the same space because you're going to have a different world under this Constitution. A different world means that it won't be political parties rabid to seize control because they're serving some ruling class, right? The Republicans serve the ruling class. The first thing they did under Trump was give huge tax breaks to the super rich in the United States, right? This, if you have government that is dedicated to the service of humanity, you're not going to have this, right? The sovereign people of the earth will be above the rich. And they will take steps, not violent steps, but procedural and carefully designed steps to eliminate that vast discrepancy between the rich and the poor that now distorts every democracy on earth. So that's a key passage there. And then the Institute on Governmental 8.4, the Institute on Governmental Procedures and World Problems, they will be educating everybody who gets elected to Parliament. All 1,500 people will take courses in government procedures, courses in world problems, courses in how the Constitution deals with these world problems, right? They will be educated, right, in very, very carefully done processes, because we want people in the world parliament to know what the hell they're doing, right? It's not a matter of power, like Mitch McConnell trying to keep power for the Republicans or whatever. It's absurd. It's an absurd way to do government. And so this makes sense out of government. So 8.5, the Agency for Research and Planning. If you've read Donna Meadows, right? Donna Meadows and her colleagues made a very well-known book called The Limits to Growth, and it came out in 1972. And then they did a 30-year update on the limits to growth that came out in 2002. And they said, if we want a decent environment for our planet, we have to extend the planning horizon for the world. We have to improve the monitoring of the human impact worldwide. We have to speed up response times to degradation and difficulties in environmental destruction. We have to prevent the erosion of renewable resources, they said. And we have to use all resources with maximum efficiency. And we have to stop exponential expansion of population and physical capital. Those were their 6 recommendations, right? If we want sustainability, this is what these agencies, the next 3 agencies, Research and Planning, and the Technological and Environmental Assessment Agency that follows this one, that's what they're about, right? Our world, if it's going to survive past the next century, is going to have to be monitored, the environment, everywhere. the impact of human activity. The population of the world is going to have to be reduced voluntarily, right? And we're going to have to extend the planning horizon beyond 4 years, right? It's got to be 50 years, right? 60 years, 100 years. That has to be a planning horizon. And this can only happen through world government. There's no country on earth that plans ahead that far, right? With China, it's 5-year plans, right? And so on. So this is what the world needs if it's going to survive. And then the agency on page 54, the next agency, Agency for Technological and Environmental Assessment, its job is to maintain a global monitoring of the environment, right? So that we see how the oceans are regenerating, or the soil is regenerating, or not. And so they're monitoring the environment. They're monitoring the effect of technologies on the environment, protecting the earth as a single biospheric whole. So then 8.7, the last significant one in the integrative complex. This is absolutely fundamental, because this answers, I think, Bob's question earlier a little bit. How are we going to pay for it, right? Because what this does, I don't know if any of you have read Ellen Brown's book, The Web of Debt. It came out in 2007. You should read that book, right? She's not the only author that's written about this, but for years I attended the meetings of the American Monetary Institute and their analysis, right? Private banking is an absurdity. Private banking is the ownership of the creation of money by private interests, not in the public interest, right? And what this does, what subsection 8.7.1.5 and 1.6 and 1.7 is establish global public banking, so that money will be like the roads, right? We don't privatize the roads because everybody needs the roads, right? They have to be public. The government has to maintain them. It's the same with money, right? Money, everybody needs money. Everybody has to interact with money and so on. And it's absurd to have that money creation in private hands. The Federal Reserve in the United States, private banks, a consortium of private banks. We create money in the United States as debt, right? And that's why the American people are like $17 trillion in debt. It's absurd. It doesn't need to happen, right? So this will give us unlimited resources, right? If money is not created in order to feed the super rich, if it's created for the benefit of humanity, it will give people the planet Earth the resources it needs to do everything necessary to keep a decent world system. Okay, I'm going as fast as I can, Bob.
You're doing great, Glenn. Thank you.
8.8, the Commission for Legislative Review will simply, look at legislation to make sure it's well written, and you've got to have good legislation, and we're very well aware of that, because we have sessions of the Provisional World Parliament in which we try to pass provisional world legislation. So we're following proper form for legislation and so on. So they will do that. They will integrate international law with emerging world law, and so on. So finally, Article 9, the last article for today, the world judiciary creates the world court system. And the world court system will, it goes into how the judges are chosen. They have to be at least 30 years old. They have to have extensive legal experience. They also have to have extensive awareness of the humanities, which I think is excellent. And so they will be, they'll be certified as people who are truly experts in their field. And this will create a consortium, a collegium of world judges, and it's from 20 to 60 members in the collegium. And so this article describes how they're to be organized. They, like all the other agencies, they will elect 5 of the judges to be the presidium of the judges. So there'll be one from each continent in this as head of the Collegium of World Judges. And then they will distribute the justices into 8 different benches. Right, the bench for human rights, a bench for criminal cases, a bench for civil cases, a bench for constitutional cases, a bench for international conflicts, a bench for public cases with big consequences. They'll keep a separate bench for those, an appellate bench, and an advisory bench. The advisory branch will give legal advice to any people in the World Parliament, any agencies of the government in an official capacity. You know, if they want to know how this conforms to the Constitution, they will give them an advisory opinion. So the the world court system, and this can have subcourts, right? It's not just the 8 benches of a Supreme Court, but just like federal courts in the United States, you have levels, various levels of federal authority, and this will have various levels of global authority throughout the world. So that world law will be enforced by the world police, who is Article 10, right? We're not going to look at that. And they'll be enforced, they'll be protected by the world ombudsman, Article 11, and the Collegium of World Judges, giving us a world of law rather than now it's a world of power. Even the nations of the world have the ability not to obey the International Criminal Court or the International Court of Justice because they're sovereign. Their sovereignty comes first. So that's Article 9, right? Okay, I'll stop there.